This is Zeklog the Great. So, once in a while I get tired of talking about politics and the culture war and want to do something else. And I figured since, I cover a lot of poetry here on my channel, people might find it interesting to just learn a little bit. If you enjoy some of the things, some of the poems I do, but you don't know that much about how you know, poems work, what the different forms are, it might be interesting to take some time and just explain some of these basic ideas so that you can have a little more educated enjoyment. Which that might sound a little weird, but that is actually a thing. You learning how something works, understanding it better, you can enjoy it more thoroughly. I honestly don't know that much about how football works, and so watching a game isn't that interesting to me as it would be to someone who, for instance, understands the details of the game. So, tonight I thought I would explain what is a sonnet and how does it work. So, the basic parts of a sonnet. A Shakespearean sonnet is a 14-line poem written in iambic pentameter with a rhyme scheme A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. And it has a turn in the last two lines. Well, that about wraps it up. Looks like this is going to be a short video. That explains everything. No, of course not. I mean, that does actually explain the basic ideas, but if you don't have the context of what these different parts mean, then that didn't really tell you that much. So, first thing here is I'm talking about a Shakespearean sonnet. There are a few different forms of sonnets. There's a Shakespearean sonnet, there's a Petrarchan sonnet, and there is a Spenserian sonnet form. And they all work a little differently, although they do share in common. There are 14 lines and they have a turn. But with outside of that commonality, they work a little differently. Tonight I'm talking about a Shakespearean sonnet. And if this is if this video is going to tell you something, probably you still don't know that much based on what I've already said. So, what does iambic pentameter mean, and what is a poetic meter? Iambic pentameter is a poetic meter with 5 iambs per line. Poetic meter is about a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in a line, about how we put emphasis on different parts of a word as we're speaking. All English language has a kind of rhythm, has a kind of pattern of stressed and unstressed. Usually it's in ordinary speech, it's relatively random. In well-written poetry, it is carefully planned. Iambic means a pattern of an unstressed syllable and then a stressed syllable, and pentameter means that pattern, unstressed, stressed, repeats 5 times. This is all very abstract. That's why we go to an example. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Okay. And if you see above the line, I have those that flat mark and the vertical mark. That's how it's called scanning poetry. When you're reading it and marking out the meter, those are the kind of marks they use. Now I way overdid it. Shall I compare the two? I made it thuddingly obvious. Now, when you're reading poetry either for enjoyment or as performance, you don't do it that way. But it is overemphasizing something that is really there. That is the genuine pattern that is in the line, and as you can see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beats of the same pattern. 5 iambs, unstressed, stressed. In poetry, we talk about, in poetic meter, we describe those patterns, that the pattern of stressed and unstressed, as poetic feet. And there are several of them in English poetry, and they tend to produce different effects. They have a different sound and a different feel to them. If you want a if you want a good example of this, Alexander Pope's poem "Sound and Sense" talks about it as he does it, and it's a amazing demonstration. Alexander Pope is brilliant. He wrote a poem at the age of 12 that people are still talking about 300 years later. I was writing stories at 12. No one is talking about it right now. Anyway, but for reasons I won't go into right now, the English language tends to have a roughly iambic rhythm. It's a pattern we tend to fall into. It isn't perfect, but it's a natural pattern of speech for us. Now, when you're talking about iambic pentameter, the meter doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be exactly that. There can be some variation. In well-done poetry, that variation from the meter has a purpose. It illustrates a part of the meaning of the poem. In badly written verse, it's just kind of sloppy. But like I said, there are several types of poetic feet in English. There's the iamb, which is unstressed then stressed. There's a trochee, which is stressed then unstressed. There's a dactyl, which is stressed, unstressed, unstressed. That's a three syllable pattern. An anapest, unstressed, unstressed, stressed. Spondy, stressed, stressed. Pyrrhic, unstressed, unstressed. Okay. Anapest, a place you'll commonly see that pattern would be in limericks. There once was a girl from DC, and that would be an anapestic meter. And it also and that actually shows something about what anapests for. That a repeated unstressed, like double unstressed, tends to it moves quickly. It's kind of light. It's kind of tends toward having a humorous or lighthearted feel. Anyway, and like I said, if you want to see in practical, in a very explicit demonstration, Alexander Pope's poem "Sound and Sense" shows you this as he's talking about it. I'll probably have to record that poem at some point. Anyway, what is a rhyme scheme? Like I said, the rhyme scheme of a Shakespearean sonnet is A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. Those letters show the ending sounds, the rhyming pairs in the poem. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Harsh winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Day, May, rhyme. Temperate, date, rhyme. English pronunciation has shifted somewhat since Shakespeare's day, and I suspect that those two are a much more exact rhyme in his day. But I mean, you still can see the rhyme there, even if it doesn't. You still can see the connection there, even if it doesn't rhyme exactly in today's pronunciation. Since the rhyme pairs change every 4 lines, that naturally tends to create a shift in topic, where each 4-line stanza changes focus or emphasis. It naturally tends to form almost like paragraphs within the poem. And this is where the form of the poem intersects with the meaning, which is, again, what good poetry is supposed to do. The form, the meter, the rhyme, the rhyme scheme, it's not just kind of there. It's not a separate thing. The form and the meaning, meet and interact with one another, and each strengthens the other. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Harsh winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. And from the first stanza A, B, A, B, to the second C, D, C, D, it's kind of continuing the same idea. But from the C, D, C, D to E, F, E, F, like I said, there is a shift in topic, and it is right in line with that, right in line with the change in rhyme scheme. So as I said, the form and the meaning interact, and each strengthens the other. Last major feature of a sonnet is the turn. The last two lines of a Shakespearean sonnet have a turn. And again, this is where the form meets the meaning. In the rest of the poem, the rhyming pairs are separated, whereas in that turn they are right next to each other, and it has, like, you can feel it. You can feel a shift of mind from that change in the rhyme scheme. And that gives an emphasis to the turn, which in a sonnet, the turn means a shift in perspective or change of mind for the poet. And so, if we go back, so long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. In this example, Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, the turn is a change from talking about the person, he's addressing, to the immortality that his verse is creating for them. And quite a boast there. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. You kind of want to say it's a bit arrogant, but he pulled it off. We're still talking about it, and Billy Boy's been dead for some time now. So, and that's basically what a sonnet is and how it works. Just quick review. Like I said, it's a 14-line poem. It's written in an iambic pentameter, rhyme scheme A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G, and it has that turn, that shift in perspective in the last two lines. So, not my usual subject matter, not the kind of thing I usually talk about, but I hope this has been interesting and informative for you. And good night, and God be with you.